the legal debate may be settled.
The issue around whether carbon pricing forms part of Canada's plan with respect to reducing emissions is over.
But the political debate is about to heat up.
Canada's Conservatives will repeal Mr. Trudeau's carbon tax.
The Conservatives, who voted just days ago against recognizing the existence of man-made climate change, vow to relitigate the issue in the next election and say they'll reduce greenhouse gas emissions in other ways.
We won't be doing that by making the poorest Canadians pay.
Right now, the 3 provinces that challenge the federal law have to make a choice: adopt their own carbon pricing mechanism or have the federal scheme imposed on them.
When it comes to complying with this decision, we're going to do it in a way that imposes the lowest possible cost on Albertans.
The Supreme Court's decision is very unfortunate today, but it is a reality that we must deal with.
Scott Moe says Saskatchewan is designing its own carbon pricing system, one that will give money back to drivers at the pump. New Brunswick tried something similar. The federal environment minister says that sends a signal to burn more gas.
I'm certainly very sympathetic to trying to ensure that there is space for Saskatchewan to make choices that are specific for its economy. But it has to drive emissions reductions. Otherwise, what are we doing?
The minister says he will reach out to the provinces to try to find a way to work together after spending the last 3 years as opponents in court. Olivia Stefanovic, CBC News, Ottawa.
Now, in the world of business, you'll certainly find critics of the carbon tax disappointed in the ruling, but as Rafi Boudjikanian shows us, that's not all you'll find.
That's durum wheat there.
And to get it to market from his farm in rural Saskatchewan, Todd Lewis says, you need to burn a lot of carbon.
We have to rely upon rail specifically, in most cases, to see our product transport to export position, be it at the West Coast or down in the United States. And those carbon taxes are added to the fuel that the railroad burns, and it's passed directly on to us.
There are other costs right on the farm.
You are not able to get your crop off without drying it. It just will not dry down. And so you use natural gas or propane or some sort of heat source, and the bills can be into the tens of thousands of dollars.
With the carbon tax set to rise to $40 a ton next month, some businesses had hoped for relief.
We are still very much in this pandemic with restrictions imposed on small businesses across the country. And really now is not the time to imposing additional cost increases on small businesses.
But with today's Supreme Court decision, what appears to be resignation. Last year, the Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers had asked for a carbon tax freeze. Now, the oil lobby just says it wants Ottawa and the provinces to work together.
It really just confirms where the world's going. And the world's going to, there's certainly an energy transition underway.
Then there are those trying to get in on carbon capture. This central Alberta plant says it's pulled the equivalent of 350,000 cars off the road.
We're in the business of large-scale capture and storage, and there needs to be incentive to do it. That incentive can take many forms, and this is one, and it's good to know that it's finally been clarified that it's constitutional.
The big question now, what that might look like once the holdout provinces decide whether they'll implement their own carbon tax or stick to the one imposed by Ottawa. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Edmonton.
And now our chief political correspondent, Rosemary Barton, joins us because, Rosie, what is your sense? I mean, what you make of today's decision?
Andrew, listen, it is obviously a clear victory for Justin Trudeau's government and its decision on how to fight climate change with a carbon tax. It puts the ball in the court of those provinces now that didn't want this to either come up with a serious plan of their own or to stick with the one that has been imposed on them by Ottawa. What it doesn't do, though, fundamentally, is change the political debate around climate change. Remember, Conservative leader Erin O'Toole says he's going to repeal this and put in place some system of his own that's yet to be determined, that he's yet to announce. So there's a very good chance that the next election will yet again be a battle over climate change and who has a real plan to fight it.
Right, and more on that on At Issue coming up a bit later. Looking forward to that conversation. Thanks, Rosie.